Hello, good afternoon from Hong Kong. Here is Marcello Brescia presenting the very first episode of Tech on Air, and today I'm here with Mike, who is traveling in Asia. Very excited to have you here, Mike. And please introduce yourself, and then we dive in the conversation.
Well, thanks, Marcello. Appreciate you inviting me for your inaugural podcast here. My name is Mike Nguyen. I'm CEO and founder of Inflect. We are a marketplace and advisory in the digital infrastructure space. So the simple way of thinking about it is we help source out all the services and infrastructure that people need to build their websites and all this great AI stuff everybody's talking about. So all the things we do on the internet, that's stuff we do underneath it.
You label yourself as the Expedia, right? Like marketplace where people can find better ways, smarter ways to procure and buy anything from network to data centers.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's we're bringing the marketplace play ironically to the internet. So the joke we always had was you could buy a car on the internet, you can book a flight on the internet, you can when I first started you could research a home on the internet, now you could buy it on the internet, but you can't buy the internet on the internet. Yes. So that's what we're trying to do, build that out.
Yeah, that's great. And welcome to Hong Kong for the second time.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, I feel sorry. Every time you come to Hong Kong, it's either like cold or raining. But I wish next time you come is like perfect weather, because around this time is like, not too cold, not too hot. And it's like we have these sunny days where we enjoy going out for hike and stuff. So I hope next time you come, you can enjoy this better. You're traveling with the family, so it'll be better next time. Anyway, so you always enjoy coming here. I mean, second time, but you feel Hong Kong is vibrant. And what do you think? I mean, especially coming from US, where people, they're not very familiar with this region, and you are traveling around Asia. So you just came back from Japan, and how was that?
Yeah, Japan's always very interesting. I think. This is the second time in the last year that my family came with us. It's my fifth time to Japan, so 3 times before I had a family. And it's I've only brought the family here during the wintertime. So the directive from the family is let's go when it's not the wintertime. So maybe cherry blossom season in the spring or something like that. But Japan is Japan's awesome. It's very interesting from a business culture perspective. As well as just it's just an awesome country, but the regional differences between Tokyo and Osaka, where we went this time. Last year we went Tokyo and Kyoto. It's very interesting. Tokyo is very much the business center of things, and Osaka is kind of like the hipster center of it all.
Yes.
So it's great. But you asked about Hong Kong and how we view it.
Yes.
Americans are funny because we're bought into the sensationalism.
Correct.
What I mean? So there's just lots of noise around this, that, and the other thing, and people are like, oh, Hong Kong's not Hong Kong anymore because it's not British Hong Kong anymore. I'm like, I don't know. It feels fine to me, right? It feels great. There's a lot of business going on. It's very interesting and open, but it's a lot of what you see in the movies. Like last time we were here, we went to the yacht club, Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club. And we were sitting next to this couple or this table of a bunch of young, probably like sub 28-year-old people, right? But clearly very well-to-do. And it was like watching Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah.
I'm eating my Hainan chicken rice and watching these people talk about their nannies and how crappy the new Tesla, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because it's this gritty Chinese culture smashed together with like a lot of high-level business. There's a lot of British culture still infused, and then you got a little bit of Portuguese, and it's actually very interesting.
Yeah. Maybe next time you come, I encourage you to go to Macau as well.
Yeah.
Where it's very, even more like you can see that east meets west.
Ah, interesting.
Because even the names of the road, they're in Portuguese, and the layout of the city is like very Mediterranean style.
Yeah.
So when I go there, I feel like the first time I went to Macau, I felt, well, I'm in Naples again. Like a lot of, because I'm from Naples, right?
Yeah.
And you feel like narrow roads and the tiles on the floor and the church, right? So I feel like very I feel homey, you know.
Oh,
there.
really? Okay. Well,
Yeah, so-
next time we'll go. I think it's interesting because people have different views in Macau. Like, yeah, it's not worth going or whatever. But I like checking out anything. We always find something interesting.
There is the part of a casino, if you would talk about that. There
Yeah.
is like divided in two parts mainly. There is like the casino, which is like is Las Vegas in a smaller version,
Yeah.
and then there is still the interesting part is like the heritage of the Portuguese.
Yeah.
That they you can still find the restaurants and these family owned businesses and the roads, everything. It's cool. Yeah.
Well, next time we'll go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll come when it's not so cold, and we'll go travel out there.
Yeah.
This time
sure.
is Disney, so we're taking the kids to Disney, and
Oh, great.
that will leave one last Disneyland they haven't gone to, which will be the one in Shanghai.
Okay, next time.
Yeah, next time we'll see.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So traveling around Asia, mixing family time, your business, and you know what is the outcome so far, and maybe before diving into that, you started a career in the tech industry, founding a company, Silent Partners,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Silent Partner founded that company back in 2002, so it's
Wow.
now 23 years as of
How
January.
how did you start? It was because someone pulled you in, or you
Yeah.
just
like most things I do in my life is either it's kind of binary. I guess they meld a little bit, but it's either I get really excited about something, right, like a little kid about a concept, or I get super annoyed by something.
Yeah,
and I want to
yeah.
go do something different. So, in this case, I graduated college in 1998 in December of '98. So basically, started my career at the beginning of '99, and went into a bunch of little startups and stuff like that in the Bay Area. But during this time in the U.S., there was the deregulation that happened where AT&T was broken up in 1996.
Yes.
So you had all of these what they called CLECs, those competitive local exchange carriers that sprung up. And all of these companies raised tons and tons of money, like billions and billions of dollars to build out all this infrastructure to essentially compete with AT&T, which is broken up into 7 what they call baby bells, so regional local exchange carriers.
All across U.S.
All across the U.S. So I started working for some of these companies, and like anything that's kind of new and crazy, there wasn't a lot of regulatory oversight on some of the things that were going on.
Yeah.
So out of that time, you had the stuff that happened with Enron.
Yeah,
and
Enron, yes.
Quest had a issue. MCI. A lot of people went to jail, right?
Really?
Yeah, like Bernie Ebbers went to jail, Skilling went to jail. All these folks went to jail. It was pretty bad for sales guys like myself. Basically, I went to 3 companies, and each one of them went Chapter 11.
Wow.
So there was during the downturn. I was in San Francisco at the time, so watching the .com bubble burst,
Yes.
which took along everything, but especially the telecom stuff was pretty bad. But there was another part of it, which was as I was a salesperson for these companies, what I started noticing when you're building out, the infrastructure you need. So at that time, there's a lot of corporate locations. People would come to me and say, "Hey, I've got this office. I've got X amount of employees. I need this service, like internet access, to go, for them to connect to the internet and do work, or whatever. But I want a redundant circuit. So if that goes down, I have a backup."
Yes.
Like, "Oh, sounds great. You buy 2 from me." And they're like, "No. I need redundancy from a carrier perspective too."
Yes.
So what happened is I would have to refer that to my buddy of mine who worked at another company.
Which is a competitor as well.
Yeah. So 2/3 of the time, you're helping somebody else get the deal.
Yes.
I said, well, that sounds silly, but for me, it wasn't about trying to capture just the revenue. It was I'm not really doing the customer a favor, right? So there's this whole concept then you can actually represent as an independent agent, right, of these companies. So think of like travel agents representing hotels or flight airlines or whatever. There's this whole burgeoning beginning segment of the industry of agents representing a bunch of telecom companies. So I decided to start the Silent Partner in 2002 to do that. So instead of me referring everything off, I'll just do it.
Yes.
Right. So the cool part about that was being in San Francisco. I said something very specific, and it came with a lot of pain, and it continues to come with a lot of pain, which was if I could make it through the nuclear winter of the .com bubble bursting,
Then
all hell going loose.
yes.
I was 26 at the time, I think. I was like, if I can make it through this shit, I'll make it through anything, right?
Yes.
Well, people keep trying to kill me, They still haven't done it yet, right? So the further you go in your career, the more the problems. There's still always problems, but they're just different, right?
Yes.
But you learn from a very early stage how to have the grit and the resilience to get through things.
Yes.
And that time, like, .com was dead, so it was just now kind of like larger companies like Amazon and Google, and then a bunch of legacy businesses. But the concept of the internet or .com was a poisonous word for many carriers. So when Web 2 came out, and you started seeing Facebook came around, and Netflix was born out of this time frame, et cetera. For us being in San Francisco, we saw the green shoots of Web 2. And that kind of came along with Y Combinator going from East Coast to West Coast in their first class of '05. So we got tied into folks like the Justin TV people and good buddies of mine still, and Weebly, and kind of like the first class of '05, '06, '07. Those folks did a lot of work for them. Also met Facebook during this time frame, so helped them build up in the early stages, and we just kind of rode that wave. And Sound Partner was kind of known as helping people build out infrastructure for Web 2. But one of the crisis of conscience for me was, if you never met myself or our team, then you didn't really get the benefit of the contacts we had and the tribal knowledge of how to do deals, how to structure them, et cetera. So really, we only had so much time. We only had time for so many companies, and they were kind of like the biggest ones, right? What about everybody else? So that was where I started kicking around in my head, probably in about 2010, this concept of how to democratize our value for folks. And that's the concept of what Inflect is now, marketplace. So build out the Expedia, the Airbnb, whatever it is you want to use as an example, but make all the data, all the relationships available for anyone around the world to leverage.
I see. So interesting. You get through those difficult times, but how was I wonder, I was a kid back then, in San Francisco back then, the internet, how was the perception? And then later, maybe you see the similarity with today's about AI. Like, of course, back then there was less access to data information compared to today.
Yeah.
But compared to, if we compare both times, it's like you find something similar, like you're behind investors, companies are reluctant to adopt, maybe some are leading the innovation, and you have the politicians, the government, some people. So is it like you feel the same things, or it's different?
Well, people like to talk about the past being prologue to the future and whatnot, right? It's or you're having pattern recognition for stuff. Here's the danger of that. So I'll preface what I'm about to say with this concept is while you might have experience and you might have seen something similar before, that does not mean what you're seeing today is exactly the same.
Yes.
So the playbook you have for whatever you did to get out or through that other issue may partially apply, but it's not the exact answer. This is one of the challenges, I think, for a lot of folks in life in general, but a lot of business people. It's like, I already built that once for Google. Right? Yeah. Like, how many times did you hear people saying, I've hired a guy from Google to go build my stuff, and then it didn't work? Well, you're not building Google. You built something else,
yes.
Right? So if you hired somebody from Google who did a specific thing and you need that thing done, then that's part of the conversation. But if you said, hey, you've done it for Google before, build my stuff out, and we'll be like mini Google, it just doesn't really work.
Yes.
So you asked the question of what was San Francisco like, and what do I see similarity-wise? So when I said the nuclear winter, it literally was that. So everything was go, go, go in 1998, 99, right? And you're kind of, everybody's throwing parties and just people IPOing on a napkin. I mean, it was complete bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And what would happen is you see all these people kind of running around. And this is actually the canary in the coal mine for me, is when you start seeing people that aren't really building anything, but they're all around like part of the culture, right? All the meetups and all that sort of crap.
Yes.
You're like, all right, now it's getting kind of fluffy. So that happened, and it was kind of like towards the end, it was like the four dudes on the Titanic.
Yeah,
they're playing as they're like, I know it's all going to end, but instead of being like mindful about how it ends, let's just dress up really nicely and go down with the ship. So people are throwing big parties as they're dying. It's crazy
until the last second.
So you watch all that. Here's a really great example. I think a studio in San Francisco at that time, in the Golden Gate Apartments, I looked at, I think it was like $4,000 a month.
Okay.
right? And the vacancy rates in South Market at the time for offices was something like 1.2% or maybe 0.8%, something minuscule. Within 6 months, it was 50%
Wow.
in the South Market. And then the rates for like studio apartments and whatnot collapsed to like, still a lot, but like, a couple $1,000s, like half. And
Okay.
people, I remember walking around, everybody's kind of, joyous during the .com time. And it was just like zombies for a year and a half. Just people walking around shell-shocked. And a lot of people got wiped out and never came back, right? And that's the good thing about these bubbles that form. Web 2 is the same way, right, to a certain extent. Web 3,
yeah.
AI now, right?
Yeah.
Like there will be losers.
Yes.
And it will be spectacular, some of the losses, right?
Yeah. You
But-
remember the metaverse? Like
Oh.
3 years ago, 4 years ago, everyone metaverse, including myself. I was doing a newsletter about metaverse because it was about gaming and stuff.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of, died down.
NFTs.
Yeah,
and
NFTs,
God,
yes.
all that stuff. So
Yeah.
So you see the exuberance, so you can kind of start telling, and I think a lot of it's about predicting.
Yeah.
But if you keep an open mindset around how to deal with the current situation, and there's always stuff like who's providing the money, who's using the stuff, how's it being adopted, right? Like that's a lot different than how the internet was back in the day. So while they look similar in terms of like this peak and trough
Yes.
and all that stuff, the way you deal with things is actually pretty different.
Yeah.
You recognize there's a problem, but what you do is different, right?
Yes.
So
And that's why the reason why now you with Inflect, right? You get to this point where I guess a lot of users are on the platform.
Yeah.
You're really matching the buyers and sellers.
yeah,
So you came after now is 20 years. I mean, if you include the
23 years for a silent partner, 25 years in the industry.
but you always look through. You never relax. You always wanted to be a leading innovator for this marketplace, and
Yeah.
you never like really sit down and say no. You always wanted to explore more and more, and that's why now you're coming to Asia
Yeah.
because you're still like kind of new to Asia, second time.
Yeah.
And after this, you are traveling somewhere else, right? Southeast Asia.
Yeah. I mean, that's so here we're concurrently, just our family is nomadic, so we've been doing this for about 18 months now. So we're living where we're at, which means I also work where I'm at. We're preparing for when the Western world really takes a big look at Asia, right? From the AI explosion. A lot of it now with the data centers and big deployments to build these models, it's centered still very much around the U.S. and Europe.
Yeah.
So I'm just preparing essentially for when the models start getting trained in Asia as well as inferencing happens, right? So it's actually kind of the same story that happened with cloud when AWS came out. It's you were U.S.
Yes.
first, and then you started going to Europe, so on and so forth, right?
Yeah.
So we're just preparing. Like it's going to be important for us to be dialed in with our partnerships when the Western world wants to come over here, and vice versa. Actually, putting out our roots here so we can help the Asian companies go back to go to the east
And the face-to-face in Asia is very important. That kind of relationship. I remember during COVID, people were saying, "Oh, no more conference. People can meet virtually." But no.
Nope.
Actually, I think best of deals happen when you have kind of an informal conversation. Not like we have a formal meeting. Sometimes it all starts from a conversation, by a casual talk in a bar or in a conference room that is not like a proper formal meeting.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you really think about your relationships in life, right? It's a lot of times when you're like, oh yeah, I've got this buddy.
Yeah.
But when you map it all the way back, you're like, holy cow, I met a dude, drinking a beer at a dive bar on a Tuesday or some crap.
Yeah.
Then we hung out somewhere, and I got introduced to this person, and somehow I end up meeting the future CEO of whatever company.
Yeah.
Right. It's still happenstance. But I think more importantly for us as we go around I do this work of going around the world. It's we're trying to automate a lot of the things that people do, which you still have to win the hearts and minds of people to let you do those things.
Yeah.
Right. So our industry has been pretty much driven by sales interactions. Right. So
Yes.
Those days, the AT&T way of doing business. Oh, you want to buy an internet circuit from me? Sounds great. I'll send 12 VPs to see you for some reason. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different now. Like the way we want to research is different, but it's not really a thing a lot of people do. So they still want to talk to somebody, and that's why having
Yes.
the marketplace plus an advisory makes sense. But you have to get people to say, I'm going to let go of the old school way of having 10,000 salespeople and realize that the world actually wants to buy very much like a consumer methodology. So
Yes.
self-research, get to a point where I can ask like 2 questions versus try to run the whole thing through a handful of salespeople. So
Yes, something that makes sense, especially as we become more tech savvy. We have more access to information.
Yep.
And as you said at the beginning, I mean, to buy the infrastructure to run the internet, why we don't do it on the internet?
Yeah.
It's a paradox, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. And I just saw on LinkedIn, you have a shirt with all the events you're doing.
Yeah.
So we started off at PTC. We were in
Yeah.
Hawaii together.
Yep.
By the way, always great event.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Brian for doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And great event. I've seen then you are going to some events in, you're going to Malaysia, right?
Yeah. That one's actually not on the T-shirt.
That's on the shirt, yes.
Yeah. So we put out a Inflect World Tour shirt, right? Which is not what I'm doing necessarily, but what the team does in terms of the formal events we're going to. So PTC, the next formal events that we have on the shirt is the NVIDIA GTC conference.
Yeah, March.
Yeah, March. And then a very specific industry conference called Channel Partners in Vegas. So GTC in San Jose, Channel Partners in Vegas, then ITW in Washington, D.C., Data Cloud in Cairns. Let's see here. Capacity.
Should go one in Antibes. It's called Platform Markets.
All right.
That's it's a very great conference.
When is that one?
It's in September.
September, okay. I think September is kind of a dead month for us, so that
So
might
you
be
should, I think I'll be there. So
okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go together.
Three trips to Europe this year then.
Yeah, maybe you should stick in Europe for a while.
Well, yeah, because Capacity comes in, we're definitely gonna do that, and I think that's late October.
Capacity Europe. Yeah.
In London. So yeah.
And you have you have a team in Poland as well that you use AI yourself to run the platform, which is amazing, right? Because you really try always to find ways how the users of the platform can improve their experience.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting for us because my career has been built on my own wiliness, right? My ability to work with people and read people and all that sort of stuff. But with the technology that we've been building for the last 8 years with Inflect, so we started the company in 2016, the evolution of getting the data in place and building out the user interfaces, the UI that help people navigate through a marketplace feel is in some ways getting disintermediated with AI. I think we got used to things like Siri, right? Like, even though not a lot of people use it, but you get used to hey Alexa, hey Siri, hey Google, hey whatever, do a thing for me, right?
Yeah.
And that's becoming more and more of how you're communicating and doing search and whatnot. And I think that's going to be the same in our space. So luckily, we understand how people buy, we understand how people sell and service. We have the data, we have the relationships, but not just a different user interface, which is our bots that are AI driven to answer questions and learn as we go along. And I think that's going to be a big change in our space. But that's something that we're pushing hard on this year.
Okay, that's great to hear. You are in Asia. I think it was after PTC when we heard about DeepSeek, right? But you are in Asia anyway, so it seems you are here at the right time, which it was kind of a shake in our industry. I mean, the AI industry particularly. Yeah. So, what's your take on this? Is is a good thing or?
It's kind of like all news is good news in a lot of ways, right? In particular with the DeepSeek stuff, as we learn more and more about it, there certainly is clear technological advances that they made that people are making and copying, which that's what you should, that's what people do.
Yeah, open source.
I think that actually accelerates AI adoption and utilization, which actually in our industry, people are freaking out. Like, do you really need all this power? Do you really need all these GPUs? Well, the answer is yes, because what you're doing now is you're starting to unlock different ways of building the models bigger. So you imagine, the world we're in right now, we started seeing a leveling off in the models, right? We're adding more and more compute. Didn't actually give you an exponential growth that you were expecting. You started leveling off. Well, you have to have little technological advances to increase the curve,
Yes.
the steepness of the curve again. And I think DeepSeek is one of those things. Do I believe that R1 or DeepSeek itself was built on $5.6 million? I don't know. There's news out there. We'll see, but I think that's more nuanced. I do think that they actually spent a lot more money getting to that point, and was distillation of like the OpenAI model and stuff like that, which for those who might not know, it's essentially they were utilizing OpenAI's API or whatever it is to kind of train themselves. So they're mimicking a lot of the stuff that OpenAI had built, right? So kind of building on top
make use
of
it.
Yeah, which is fine. That's what we do.
And the thing is, you travel a lot. You meet all these, data center operators, and now in the market there is this kind of scarcity, especially of power and water as well, because that's all liquid cooling.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a good thing in the sense that we can do more with less.
Yeah.
If you put in that perspective, right?
We're going to do more with more.
Yeah.
It's just these advances. I think the misconception is all of a sudden you'll need less to do the same amount of things, but you're forgetting that we're actually trying to do more things. You're actually trying to get to AGI a lot faster, right? So this actually accelerates that process. I think you and I were chatting about this in the cab over. It's very similar to what happened with bandwidth pricing.
Yes.
Right. So early days in Web 2, a lot of it was around social media and streaming and stuff like that. So bandwidth had become ubiquitous, and you had broadband at the home that allowed people to do things like stream YouTube and whatnot, Netflix, etc. YouTube and all these guys, Google and whatnot, would have to build that network still based on the carriers themselves back in the mid 2000s, right, early 2000s. The pricing for bandwidth was really high, right? I think the first circuits we did for one of the largest, social media, the largest social media company in the world, I think it's like $15 a megabit per second, right? So we're getting a 1 gig port, which is like stuff you get to your home now, right? You'd have that for this website, and it'd be like $15 a meg for a full 1,000 megabits per second. So you're paying $15,000 a month for that one circuit.
Wow.
And at this point now, companies like that, if they're even buying bandwidth anymore versus actually just exchanging for free with other folks, you're into the single digit pennies per megabit per second, right? If you're buying at such scales, but that doesn't mean that you're not that the carriers are any less profitable, right? They actually just have advances across the board, and you're just using so much more bandwidth.
Yes.
So I think the same thing's going to happen with AI. You're actually just going to accelerate the process of buying
more
stuff.
and more.
Yeah. So the interesting thing about this, the news came out while I was still in Hawaii after
Yes.
BTC, like at the very tail end of the conference.
Yeah.
And everybody just kind of shit themselves, like, oh God, it's going to be over, right? And that's what the news was. And all the stock prices, everything crashed.
Yes, crashed.
It kind of reminded me, I went to a conference for Solana.
Okay.
And the last day, we had a great conference. We had a booth and stuff like that. And the last day was starting the news of FTX.
Oh,
Like
that
literally
was 2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were on the plane back. The news had hit about all this stuff, and the whole world went to hell, right? And the fundamentals of that industry and the same companies were there. It was just people were doing weird things, bad things. It's a little bit different in this case because it's not like R1 or DeepSeek did anything bad, right? They're not crooks or anything. It's just like it's a technological advance, but it scared the entire industry. It scared the whole world.
Yes.
Right? You ultimately get through it again.
Yeah.
Right? Like nobody's slowed down in terms of trying to buy stuff. Like none of the people we work with said, let's slow things down.
And then things I think now compared to the dot-com bubble is maybe things before this kind of process and waves would happen as lower pace, right?
Yeah.
Now you have an innovation, and in 1 week maybe something else is going to come up, and we don't know. And everything happened much faster, right?
Yeah. The dot-com thing was very specific. It reminded me of the global meltdown in 2007, right, where it was like repackaging bad loans. Essentially, it was fraud.
Yeah.
It wasn't fraud necessarily during the dot-com time. There's some stuff, of course, but it was more that people fooled themselves into this weird over-exuberance. It's almost like stocks in those days are like meme coins today for crypto, right?
Yeah.
It's like you have nothing. You literally have nothing at all. You're a
Yeah.
web van or something like that. You kind of have a business, but somehow you're worth billions of dollars. You have no revenue. It's just craziness, right? When the dot-com bubble burst, a lot of the people that never made it back were the ones that were kind of in it for the wrong reasons and just like over exuberance. The ones that made it started focusing in on things like revenue, and that's like the Y Combinator was really good at driving that into their portfolio companies' mindsets. So when things got challenging during the Web 2 timeframe, during the global meltdown, people were like, oh, here we go. It's dot-com bubble burst number 2. I was like, no, this is actually about real estate, right?
Yes.
This is about the financial markets.
It's different.
Yeah. Ironically, Web 2 was built on companies trying to make revenue. So they weathered the storm,
Yeah.
right? Like actually our business during that time frame, everybody's freaking out around the world. I felt bad about this, but Silent Partners revenue in 07 tripled, in 08 doubled, and doubled again in 09.
I see.
Because everybody was still doing everything, right? So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without panicking.
Yeah, because it was based on real business.
Yes.
So as long as you're based on real business,
You always
Yeah.
go through the new nuclear winter when
Yeah.
you are based on your business.
Yeah.
I remember MySpace was like a search engine.
no, it was one of the first social networks.
Yes.
That time was crazy though. So we were, I had a MySpace account too, but it was like MySpace, Tribe, Friendster. Here's a great story about Friendster actually. Yeah, one of they were not flexible like Facebook. The Facebook was great because it made it cool for you to give your real information, which made your profiles more valuable to the advertisers. Friendster and all these guys didn't really get that right, but Friendster, one of the reasons that they ate it was because they did a hardware refresh of their background, right, of their infrastructure, and the site went down for like 3 days or something like that, and they never came back.
Really?
Yes, the cloud wasn't a thing during this time frame.
Okay.
So like we're migrating from one hardware platform to another.
Which was like racks in data centers and
Yeah. So we're gonna shut down for like whatever. I think it was 3 days. My memory's hazy, but they never made it back. Right? It's just that's how important
that's it.
infrastructure is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people realized infrastructure is important until there is like failure. I mean, we see this in all business, like all
Yeah.
the time. If you need to have diversity and all that, sometimes you save 1 penny today, but then you pay $10
Yeah.
after 1 week. These kind of things.
Yeah. Cost comes in many forms.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not always about dollars and cents.
Yeah.
Like if you go down, are you dead?
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's kind of a grim thing. I say that, and I think of stuff like, the internet went down in Ukraine,
Yeah.
right, during the early stages of the war. And if it wasn't for Starlink, I think a lot of the challenges that Ukraine faced, would have been unsurmountable.
Yes.
But I mean, that's real. Like we're talking kind of a game, a business game, right? Dollars and cents. But
Yeah.
in real life, the internet has gotten so important to us from a real life perspective that people do actually die
Yeah.
because they don't have the right infrastructure to fight back or protect themselves.
Yes. Or you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
In such a critical
Yeah.
situations, you don't know what's going on. You know where to go, and yeah.
Yeah. Natural
I
disasters.
feel like in 2017 I went to Cuba. Cuba.
Yeah.
And I remember it was November, and then when I landed, then I realized internet was not available, which at the beginning I said, oh my God, this is going to be. But then I liked it because my colleagues, my boss, couldn't reach me out, and it was just maybe it's as up to date is my best holiday because I was unreachable, and you really need to when you are not busy to WhatsApp or.
Yeah.
Even just reading news and stuff, you really live the moment where you are. And when I was there, I really enjoyed so much.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be the reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That we don't disconnect as much.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember the same thing about Mexico, where my current wife, future wife at that point, we were in a place where there's no connectivity,
Yeah.
and just read a book and fell asleep, and you had the deepest sleep in
Yeah.
years.
And you realize how to enjoy the small things. And I think today's we are very overwhelmed with all this information. There's like this tsunami of news coming, especially now with like things like AI and stuff.
Yeah,
And people write a lot, and people, I think people make articles and stuff just using AI. They make article about AI using AI, and
yeah,
so it becomes a bit like people start to be more selective about what to read.
Yeah, and how to read, right? And then it's an interesting time we're in. I think there's enough of a backlash
Yeah.
that's enough of a focus too on mental health. That's things like
Yeah.
social media is being scrutinized. So yeah, I mean it's a double edged sword. There's never anything that is 100% good or 100%
correct.
bad, right?
So, Mike,
Yeah.
what about the future of Inflect? You have built this for a number of years.
Yep.
You are growing the company. You are applying technology. You are exploring the world yourself.
Mm.
What is in the future for Inflect? What are you working on, if you can share, and how
Yeah.
much you can share, of course?
Well, I think for our industry, and I think maybe I'll take a step back. I think this is always interesting when you visit the worldview of somebody, right? So why we build something like Inflect, right? A marketplace for the space, right? If we're successful, it looks very similar to the travel space where, if everybody remembers back in the 90s, if you want to go anywhere, you went to your local travel agency and you say, I'm going to go to whatever, Cuba. And like, no,
Yeah.
figure it out for me, right? Then all of a sudden, all these websites came out, like TravelZoo, and then also Expedia and Travelocity, and so on and so forth, and it made it easy for people to self-serve, right? And then a lot of those travel agencies went away, but the really good ones utilize the tools to get better and serve people better.
Yes.
It's very similar to that. I think it helps democratize. It helped democratize travel. Our tools are meant to democratize the space, the building of infrastructure to serve your customers, your
Yes.
your companies, your employees, etc. One of the big things we saw during the Web 2 timeframe was the internet was the greatest enabler of human innovation we've ever seen, right? So it's like, a lot of times I'm doing calls, like I had calls in the middle of the night here with people in, New Zealand, Dallas, or in Texas, Ireland, right? I had global calls with my team, and it was like we were in the same room together. So the internet is like the greatest enabler of human innovation we've ever seen, but the procurement of it is the greatest constraint to it. So companies over and over waste money, they waste opportunities, they can't build things fast enough. So if we remove that constraint, which is our mission, is driving frictionless transactions. The vision is anybody can get anything they need from whom has it at the right price at the right time to build their companies and service their customers and their employees. If you can accomplish that, if you remove that constraint, then the pace of human innovation actually increases or inflects. That's why we named it.
Your name,
Right. So for me, I'm driven by that concept. I get a lot of questions of, of course, Expedia, the Expedia Group and the Booking Group, they're multi-billion-dollar companies. And, is there, you're doing this to get rich. Look, money is important. It's a scorekeeper. It drives the business, drives the innovation, of course, but that's not my sole goal, is to enrich myself. It's actually to increase the pace of human innovation. So I think of Inflect in terms of multi-generational horizons. Some people think of like an exit 5 years from now or whatever. That's fine. There's liquidity events, right? So of course I want security for my family and so on and so forth. And it'd be nice to buy a nice bag here and there, whatever. I'm more interested in changing the way that the industry works to serve the people who are building applications, servicing human beings, etc.
I see.
So until that's done, which by the way it never will be, a good vision is it never actually gets there, right?
Yeah.
That will go past my lifetime, right? So what's next for Inflect is incrementally and in some ways saltationally make changes that are going to affect the very simple go-to-market of a buyer and a service provider finding each other and buying from each other, right? So what's next is continually driving friction out of the process, like removing steps, making it easier for people to use, leveraging AI where necessary, leveraging the people who hold influence and power in the space where necessary to help make the world smaller. So anyone, anywhere can actually buy.
Yes.
And anyone, anywhere can actually sell, right? Or service. So that's what's next is tools that do that better. So.
Yeah, you're right. Make the world smaller. In fact, if you notice, when you go to this conference like PTC, right? Now there is in the past years a lot of Chinese enterprise. They invest in Mexico, for example.
Yep.
So for me it's very interesting to see how these two cultures, they integrate each other.
Yeah.
They have a business meeting, and of course the cultures are different, and they feel like because geographically are very far, but then they sit in front of the table and they talk about the same thing, right? Bandwidth, data center,
Yeah.
and subsea cables, and that's where I see sometimes what you guys are doing is amazing, because you bring this kind of the word, right? You, of course, regardless of the conference, but after the conference, they can still do these kind of deals
Yeah.
in a much smaller space.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's only about the physical distance, cultures as well. I mean, you have traveling around Asia. You know, of course, in Japan, the way to do business is different from Hong Kong, and even like Singapore, Malaysia, they are so close, but it's different.
Yeah.
I mean, today I was looking at a map about if you divide the world population in two, you have a stretch that goes from India and all the way to through east towards East Asia, and you go through China, only the eastern part of China, by the way, and Japan. That's 4 billion of people, and then the rest of the world is 4 billion people.
Yeah.
So try to imagine how. And the interesting thing is, in Asia, the culture is so different place by place. I mean, last year we were together in Vietnam as well, and even there north-south, different culture.
Completely different. Yeah.
So as long as there is someone like you that tries to make this world of transaction easier,
Yeah.
I think makes more sense, especially when AI happen so fast.
Yeah. And this is like, I guess maybe you get on a soapbox a little bit, right? So, I truly believe you have to have a passion about what you're building and a purpose. Otherwise, you're not really going to want to do it.
Yeah.
For me, anyways, and I think for a lot of folks that are similar to me, friends of mine or what have you, or people that I may admire and whatnot, it's the purpose that drives you to do something, even if you never made $1, and maybe even to the point where it kills you. That actually drives the biggest innovations out there, right? It's that stuff where you just have to do it. There's just no way around it. And no matter how many failures you have, like how many thousands of light bulbs Edison had to go create, like 2,000 to get to the right one, whatever it is that keeps you grinding at the problem.
Yes.
To solve that problem is what I imagine is a worthwhile endeavor in life. It kind of reminds me of like one of the reasons I love Japan so much. People, the tradition is to really specialize in a thing,
yes,
right? And be really, really good at it, right?
Yes,
and that's sometimes lost in our world. For me, it's grinding on this problem. If we can get infrastructure into everybody's hands, yes, I want to increase the pace of human innovation, but as a secondary measure, I want to increase the pace of understanding between all the people that are connected to the internet. That I think is one of the greatest aspects of the internet is the democratization of data, right? So now I could research and see and feel or whatever, right? With augmented reality and stuff like that, I could probably start feeling things with AI, actually truly experiencing stuff I couldn't because I didn't have the money or I didn't have the physical ability or something to go do.
Yeah.
So maybe it drives us closer to understand each other. We hear a lot of this geopolitical crap, right? Which is problematic. I totally get it. I'm American. I get it, right? Everybody has their own positions from a political perspective, a nationalistic perspective. But ultimately, people, I think, are kind of the same. The people.
Correct. Yes.
Right? It's like, the American government is not the American people. The Chinese government is not the Chinese people.
Yeah.
Right? There's, of course, you root for your team or whatever, but the people are still the people. And I think we ultimately want things like happiness and safety and things along those lines. And as humans, you want to enrich your lives and learn more and experience more and stuff like that. So I think the work that we do hopefully drives that people together more than actually drives them apart. And I think that's maybe my biggest, I'm not sure if it's regret, but our small piece of helping people build infrastructure sometimes gets used wrong. And sometimes the apps are dangerous and sometimes disinformation is dangerous.
True. That's true.
I don't know what you could do about that necessarily because I think there's still more good that came out of it. But it's again, nothing's ever 100% good or bad. I just hope that we, with the right mindset, can continue to drive good progress between people and connecting cultures globally and people globally. That's that's something that will transcend my lifetime. And I hope that's something we can contribute to.
Okay, Mike. So thanks a lot for joining me today, the first ever Tech on Hair podcast.
Yeah.
Anytime you come back in town, let's do this again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I hope you come back to Hong Kong when the weather is going to be nice and we can enjoy a hike or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you for inviting me again. I'm honored to be the first person to do this podcast with you, and hopefully it stands the test of time. But for you, I've always appreciated your mindset, everything that I talked about earlier about expanding your mind and connecting with cultures. I always saw that natural curiosity with you, so I've always felt we were fellow travelers. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, buddy.
All the best.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yep.
See you.